Hello.
Hello. How
It's
are you
another week.
today?
It's another week.
It is another week and we survived so
Yes.
far
For the moment, we are surviving.
for the moment. And April is coming and going faster than I even can remember that it's April. 'Cause
Yes.
I'm
I
still
think
thinking
it's
it's March
definitely picking
sometimes.
up speed and for as it gets through the year. I can feel April feels much faster than March did. So
Yes, yes. I think we're in this role now. So
mhm.
it's it's crazy, but it's good crazy, right?
I'm good with it so far.
Well, I'm really excited about our topic today. I'm always excited about our topics because I think, each one of them is is near and dear, to my heart.
Mhm.
But this one particularly rings true for me in terms of vendor partnerships because it's something that I've been involved with throughout my career. Um,
Mhm.
Mostly being the vendor, right? And remembering those relationships that I'm most fond of and the
Yeah.
ones that bring a cringe to me every time I remember those. And so I think it's important for us to have that conversation, whether we are the vendor in the process or we are working with vendors to help
Mhm.
us deliver our product or solution to others, that they do play a very valuable role in the overall process of delivery to the client,
Yes.
right?
Absolutely.
And, are we looking at those relationships as more transactional,
Mhm.
or are we really focused on making them more long term relationships?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
what's the benefit in doing that?
Yeah,
So
for
I
sure.
think that this is really, really interesting stuff.
Mhm.
What would you add to kind of tee us up for today? Is there anything?
I think that, the only thing is, I think when you're starting off as an entrepreneur, I don't think you realize how critical this component is in the vendor relationships because now Whitmer Group is in its 14th year, and I had a partnership for a couple years prior to that. But man, it's kind of natural for me. I have a natural curiosity about people and about how they work. So I think that was worked well for me. But having really strong vendor relationships and ones where it felt like I genuinely cared about their business too, it has really helped me over and over. I mean, I can't tell you how many times. I probably will tell you a few, but that's it. I don't think people realize how important that is. I mean, these are just people in your community, right? Business people.
Yeah,
How important is that? It's huge.
it's huge,
Mhm.
right? It really
Mhm.
is. And what they can, how they can support you with
Mhm.
referrals for business
Mhm.
down the road, or how they can take that opportunity away from you
Yes.
because they did not have a good experience in working
Mhm.
with you. It
Mhm.
becomes extremely critical to your
Yeah.
overall success. So we've
Yeah.
got the 3 tips, the ready, set, action tips.
Yeah.
So do you want to dive into tip one?
Yeah. So, I mean, we hit this one often in things we talk about. If we're not talking about personas, we're talking about communication. So, communication is definitely, I think, tip number one, um, because and this is another thing is working in advertising agency. I had a lot of experience packaging something I needed and giving it to a creative person or a writer so that they would understand. It would come back to me. I would make sure it was right, and then I would send it on to the client. Well, how you communicate with a vendor is huge, right? So if it's printing, if it's design, if it's writing, I mean, you have to understand that some people don't, they feel uncomfortable asking you for more. They try to intuit what you need. So, depending on the relationship, you want them to make sure they know, first of all, ask me if this isn't clear. If you want to walk through an early stage with me, So encourage, I guess, especially early on in a vendor relationship, encourage them to question you and to validate things, because the bottom line is, unless you're experienced with creative brief writing,
Mhm.
it's really challenging to convey what someone needs without telling them what to do. Like, I want a tree here. You know what I mean? Like, I
Yes.
want to
Yeah.
convey trust, and I need to show their expertise and blah, blah, blah. Like, it takes a little bit. So encourage the back and forth communication and be really open with where you are. Like, I like to tell people, this client, I'm having a really hard time knowing who they're talking to or what they're looking for. I mean, I think when you say that, sometimes you set the expectation. And then if a designer says, "Oh, I have two thoughts," they might give you early drafts of either one so that you can get the client buy in and you can go forward. And that just helps. I mean, it's just huge to be able to tell the vendor where you're at. If it's buying things, if it's printing things, if it's even, relationships ongoing with your IT needs. Like, the more
Yeah.
you can tell them about where you're at, what you don't know, I think the better they feel connected to you, and they also want to help you, and they won't make assumptions.
Yeah.
So I think, communication just on what it is you need and where you're at, and really being a little vulnerable to say, you know what, I have no idea about my IT stuff, and I don't even know, just like lay it out there, and also say, try to be open with budgeting too. Like, I don't like to mess around so much with vendors when it comes to pricing. Like, I try to, you know, I I I don't have, the client has this budget. I need to make my money too. Like, it's this is the budget. Is that doable? Is it fair?
Mhm.
Or tell me what it is so I can go back and ask for more money. Like, I just try to be real transparent with that. And I think bottom line is, if my client is happy, that for me, that's a lot of my vendor stuff, then I'm happy and the vendor's happy. We're all making money. We're all should be profiting. We should be growing. We should be learning. So, it's really is a fostering environment where we can all succeed. And then that whole, I feel like you've talked about respect before too. I can't remember what we were talking about, but respect. These are I love to do business with other business owners. Like, how, I understand you can do business with a software company or a retail store, all these different huge places.
Right.
But when someone owns their business, they're, it's personal, right? I want them
Yeah.
to succeed. They want to have a great reputation. They're kind of in the same boat as me. So I really do enjoy working with small businesses to achieve goals. So respect, uh, respect where they are, respect that they might get sick a day, like
Yeah.
the reality of things. I mean,
Right.
just like an employee, you would want to really understand that this person is human first and business
Yeah.
second.
I would add to that, I think terminology comes into play sometimes, right? And just verifying that you are on the same page with certain terminology that you might use in your business.
It's good.
Because
Hmm.
I've had that happen to me in the past where
Hmm.
the other party had misunderstood my version of,
Hmm.
you know, an event or what exactly I wanted.
Hmm.
Um, and so don't always feel like it's just natural for everybody to be on the same page, right?
Right.
To
Yeah.
ask those questions or take a moment to clarify, when I say X, this is what
Hmm.
I mean by
Hmm.
that term. Um,
Hmm.
and just because you might be in a similar industry doesn't necessarily mean that they've come across this type of project before or
100%.
whatever it is you're working on, right?
100%. So, yeah, absolutely. That's good. You can always say, can you tell me what this means to you? Like, say it back to me, kind of thing, to make sure that's 100% good. So what about you? Any tips come to mind? You want to throw out a tip number two?
I think it's so funny because at the top of my list, you talk about respect, and I have treat them as an expert partner.
Mm.
You're collaborating with them on this project or assignment or whatever because they're bringing certain skills to the table for you,
Right.
right?
Right.
To bring value.
Mm-hmm.
So that elevates the relationship part of it right there,
Yep. Yep.
where and by that I mean not only just say I need this, 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 and this,
Mm-hmm.
and it's all due by this timeline,
Mm-hmm.
but involve them in the conversation. This is the product that we're putting out. This is the
Mm-hmm.
end goal of what
Mm-hmm.
we're working on together. Have
Right.
you done these types of things before? What
Yeah.
kind of insight can you bring to the table as my
Mm-hmm.
vendor partner,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Should there be other questions that I am asking my client that I, didn't think that would be beneficial to you in order
Right.
for you to deliver what we're trying to deliver on?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that, as well as, having that transparency of what's happening
Mm-hmm.
with regards to the project from the beginning in terms of the communication plan.
Yeah.
How are we going to back and forth information? Are we going to use Slack or Teams or email or text messages, or
Mm-hmm.
what is that communication to get things going back and forth? We're going to use a project management tool like Asana, which we've talked about before.
Yeah.
Or, how are we collaborating?
Mm-hmm.
And then what are the KPIs that we are working towards together,
Mm-hmm.
and creating that expectation around that. Scheduling, we've called it WIP documents, WIP calls, work in process,
Mm-hmm. Right.
and have those, scheduled out from the time that you first meet until when the project is actually due for delivery, and then make sure that you're communicating those notes after
Mm-hmm.
each meeting so everybody stays on the same page, and that you're working to make sure everything is green lighted and moving
Mm-hmm.
forward along the way, right?
Yeah.
And creating that transparency, I really think um, it just forms a bond
Mm-hmm.
that isn't always there in
Yeah.
every vendor partner relationship. So I think that that's very, very good. And then I would add to that transparency in terms of feedback,
Mm-hmm.
and also, just recognition. Like
Yeah.
maybe they beat the
Yeah.
deadline, right?
Mm-hmm.
Come in ahead of time, and, make sure that they feel valued for doing that. I mean, nothing
Mm-hmm.
pumps me up more
Yeah.
than being able to deliver ahead of schedule and deliver
Mm-hmm.
something of quality, right? So I think that's very important. And then at the at the end of the project, don't leave them out when, the client gives you the feedback and how much they love it. Make sure you share that
Yes.
with your vendor
I'm
partner.
so guilty of not doing that like I should. It's funny. Um,
But they need to hear that too, because
yes.
that's full circle for them
Mm-hmm.
as well. So
I
I
have,
really think,
yes.
all of that kind of, it incentivizes that top performance. It
Right.
makes them feel like a full contributor
Mm-hmm.
to that project, and it really sets the relationship up for
Yes.
long term.
Yes, and I there's Lori on my team. She's much better at the last communication in a project. Say thank you, the client was happy. I'm the worst. Like when it's done, and I'm on to the next thing. I mean, I'm genuine, and so I usually have to go back at certain points and just make sure people know that it was appreciated or give feedback. But it's I'm really bad at that.
Yeah, yeah, and take a moment to, go beyond and pull out something that the
Mhm.
client said that
Right,
they
right.
had contributed,
Mhm. Yeah.
and call that out
Hmm.
specifically. And I
Yeah.
think that really makes a world of difference.
Yeah,
And
sometimes we just copy and paste like the last comment from the client, especially like, "Oh, I love this." I mean, we do get that quite often. So, copying it and they see it exactly like the client said. I think it goes a long way. It's because obviously they're getting paid, they enjoy what they do, but this is just the icing on the cake of, hey, look, I'm happy, they're happy. Look how great you did. So,
yeah,
mhm.
yeah. And then, they can use that in their own portfolios as they
Mhm.
go out for additional business that might be
Right.
beyond the scope of our relationship with them,
Mhm. Mhm.
and furthers their livelihood and their career path too.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And one thing I always get asked for creative projects specifically is how is this being used? So if it's a design, a postcard, or a sales sheet, like, how is it being used? Is it emailed out to prospects? Is it used at a conference? Is it being mailed? And I always forget that information, but that's one thing I always get asked to is how is it being used? That's right along with what is it supposed to do? What is it supposed to convey? So when you look at especially creative projects with vendors, you want to tell them what you're hoping to achieve with that. And that's
Yes.
part of that transparency of, the clients looking for this and I'm looking for this and.
That's very true from a graphic standpoint. Something up on screen in a
Yes.
conference, right,
Mm-hmm.
is going to look very different than something that is emailed or received in a postcard.
Right, right, right.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, very true. That's cool. So, what about the last tip for today? What are you thinking?
So I think that this is more about cultivating this long-term value. So I always think that, especially in my world, it's more like an agency style. I have two choices for people that are on my team. I can add an employee, I can add a contract person, I can find a partner that is their own business that does exactly what I do. So, regardless of what makes sense for me at what time, I want to think of the long term potential of that, right? Because nobody wants to work with a vendor. Something's bad, it's not good for either one of you. And then on next year, you're looking for a new person. Like, that's really exhausting. So, thinking about the long term value, that's why the more transparency and the communication that you can do up front, the more you're going to know quicker, is this person a good fit? And do you like what you see? Are they happy? Are they making money? I mean, it's funny. So long term value is like, one is it's making sure that they're getting what you need, the projects aren't exhausting. Like, you don't want to be the most frustrating client for someone. So
Right,
any vendor, because you just think, I mean, every year that passes, you're investing time in them getting to know you, learn about your business, help you figure out what's next. So this is really important, like time you've invested cultivating those relationships. You'd never want to be like the worst client for them. I mean,
right.
eventually you'll either get bumped, you'll get outpriced because you've got that, annoyance tax, right?
Yes,
Like, there's something's
annoyance
going to
tax,
happen, and
yes.
you're going to like, or worse, I'll have to say is if you're, not even paying them fair and you continue to like grind and drive them down, they're not going to survive as a business, and that's not going to
Right,
suit you either. So you want to make sure it's fair, you know, it's open communication. And so you're cultivating long term success for both of you. And I have clients who this happened, started happening a while ago, but, they have openly said, I want to make sure you're making money. Are we using too much of your time? Like, because they want to make sure we're going to be there in a year or two to keep helping them with their services. And so that means a lot. Like, I take great pride when I hear stuff like that. So it's the same true with anybody I work with. I mean, I really, want to do that. And so with vendors, you can have like performance review type things. You can have just little check-ins to say, how are you doing? Do you need more? Especially if you have other team members working with them. For all you know, you might have one person who's just the rudest of all, and that
Right.
might jeopardize everything. So you want sort of this like an employee, like how's it going? What's going on?
Yeah.
Is there
Yeah.
anything we can do? Um, the other thing is part of that to me is the referral piece of it. So I have, man, over many years gotten a lot of business from referrals. And I have to say, I would say 70% of that is from some type of vendor relationship, long or short term. And it's for however it started, I can't always remember how they started, but I've worked with IT businesses who help with, domain pointing and IT and email and security for them. And just by working with them, their clients come to them and say, hey, can you build a website? Well, they don't do that, but clients often think they do. And so they would push that business to me. And then, all it, I just really was grateful for it. And I feel like not only did they were helping me, but I was helping them because they wanted their client to be taken care of. And
Right.
so when you realize that you're both getting something, those things are really, really quite nice. And the other option is, the more you get to know a vendor, you can start to say, take them to lunch, depending where they are, have other types of chats to say, hey, um, you know, like for example this live stream, like we're doing live streams, if would you ever want to come in and share your thoughts on blank, or would you like to co-author a blog with us, or would you like to do a video, like is
Yeah.
there an opportunity for you both to market and help each other? It's not always going to be the case, but maybe, right? Especially I
Right.
think of an IT company, they have very related needs to someone who's in business. I mean,
Yeah.
so look at those people and just, how can you mutually benefit each other and support each other? So we're an
Yes.
entrepreneurial community. We're a community of professionals, right? Just
Yeah.
doing our job and, trying to have a nice balance of life and work and things like that. So I think it's the, the just the feedback and the growth, and then how can you help each other perhaps with referrals. Doesn't have to be any type of money passing back and forth. Most people I know, they just do it if they trust you, and they just want to make
Yes.
sure that they're referring someone who's trusted. So I
Yes.
really like that long-term mutual kind of back and forth.
And I think it's important to be constantly building your network,
Mm-hmm.
for that reason. To be able to be a resource for a client
Mm-hmm.
in a field of expertise that I do not bring to the table has been
Yeah.
a joy for me to
Mm-hmm.
be able to do that and know that they are in good hands when I pass them over to that other
Right.
person. And so that my reputation is still intact as
Mm-hmm.
a result of doing that. Uh, and that is from building those relationships, not just being able to connect with a profile on LinkedIn that I've never
Right.
had a conversation with and
Right.
referring that way. No, but actually understanding how that person operates their business,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, and then to be able to give that referral, I think it bodes well for you in your relationship with that client long term,
Mm-hmm.
that you can be that additional resource for them.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know all industries, but I definitely feel like in marketing and certain professional services, like we're becoming such as specialists as people,
Yeah.
like the things that we do well, we want to do them really well. We don't
Hmm.
want to do like a bunch of stuff just mediocre, So I feel
Right.
like with that specialist mindset, it's good to know people who complement what you do,
Yeah.
can be a team. There's extra other levels of technical things that I require for HubSpot and other things. Like I have limits there. So
Yeah.
knowing that I have a partner and that I can go to for that extra stuff, it's just huge. I mean, um, makes me feel like I have a better, stronger team as well.
Yeah. So I'm definitely interested to hear what other people are thinking about
Mhm.
as you kind of digest the conversation today. You
Yeah,
know, reach out to us, give us your comments and your input, because we can always learn from each other,
yes,
right? We say this every
absolutely.
time, and we're all doing this, you know, participating in these Wednesday meetings
Mhm.
to build knowledge, share knowledge, but really to build it as
Yeah,
well.
right.
And you and I are not excluded from that.
Nope. I have notes all the time from
We
these
want it.
calls.
We want it. Bring it. Bring it.
Yeah, I always have notes from these calls of things I'm like, "Oh, yeah, that's good. I need to lock that down." So, and part of the reason we're doing this is because we want actionable, like, little bite-sized pieces of things we can do so we can move the needle.
Absolutely,
Mhm.
absolutely. And to your point, I think these partnerships are so vital to the success of all of us. You know, takes a village, and
Mhm.
that goes in business as well as raising children and all of that other fun stuff. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Raising a business, yes.
yes, yeah, you really are. And so it's like, look at who's in your village
Yeah.
and, you know, um, appreciate them, value them, and,
Mhm.
you know, it will come back to you. Yeah, I'm a firm
Agreed.
believer in karma from that perspective.
Agreed. Well, awesome.
Do we have anything else to like close it out with or
No, I really liked the sort of structure, communication, transparency, and then long-term value. Like I like those three tidbits. I just think there's a lot to just look at the people that you partner with differently. So,
yes, for sure. Well,
hmm
we hope that you guys had fun with us today and come and see us again next Wednesday,
hmm
where we'll have three more um, tips for ready, set, and action, making
yes,
sure that you can take these things back and, you know, create action plans to help you move your business forward.
yes, that's the big goal. So, until next week.
Well, thanks everybody, and thanks
Yes,
Christina, as
yes, you
always.
guys. Thanks, Deb. Bye.